Everyone, today, if you've been paying attention to the big Hubble Blue in the 40K community, is we got some new day sheets that were released, and they are a doozy. So I want to go over them. I'm quite excited. You know, this is one of my favorite armies and one of the armies I'm investing a lot in at the moment, time wise. I want to go over. You can see all the tabs at the top. Everything I think these models can be good in. The specific interactions that are exciting. And yeah, I just want to talk about it because it's a cool thing. You know, brand new. I'm gonna get this posted the day of, so you know at least it's with the times. So let's get into it, and I'll leave the spiel for the end. All right. So boom. So this is all the thing, but we just have the data sheets right here. First, we got Kravik, whatever his name is. This man is a Terminator leader. He's got a normal Terminator style line, 5 movement, 2 up, 4 up, 6 wounds, blah blah. Normal stat line. We'll get to his weapons first. Actually changed it. They updated it. He's just a sus 2 dev wounds, whatever was broken. So what he's got for guns is he got a normal Bale Flamer, the same thing that's on a Disco Lord, which is a D6 plus 3 shots at 612. You know, cover torrent. Quite a good flamer. And then a normal combi bolter. And then his melee weapons are quite insane. I'll be honest about that. He's got a Thunder Hammer with 7 attacks and strength 10. So 7 attacks, strength 10, minus 2 damage, and dev wounds, and not hitting on 3s. So he hits incredibly hard for a guy who kind of supposed to look like a wordsmith, but he's definitely some kind of Chaos Lord looking dude. So he just beats the crap out of people. He's got a second actually good extra attack weapon. It's 3 extra attacks at 622 with anti-vehicle 2 up. So even against non-vehicles, it still beats crap out of you because strength 6. Overall, he's got 10 attacks total at mid to high strength, damage 2, blah, blah, blah. What's great, though, is his leader abilities, which he doesn't have a true leader ability, but, essentially. First one is when his unit targets the closest enemy, whether in shooting or melee, they get plus 1 AP. So you equivalently think these all AP 3, and these are most likely to be AP 2 and 1, so very good. And his second ability, which is a little worse than it looks like, but still great, he picks a target at the beginning of the game, and then when he targets, not his unit, targets that unit, he gets 4 rolls to wound. So it can give his 4 rolls to wound, and it switches if you kill the unit. But it's still very good for a guy with 7 attacks at 8, potentially AP3. Will be AP3 in melee with dev wounds on the most of the good attacks. Very good. Also works in shooting, so you can use it with the Bale Flamer and such, which is really nice. So he hits incredibly hard. He's not squishy. And more importantly, the units he leads. Like obviously you better with chosen stuff, but he can lead the Obliterators, the New Mutilators, and Chaos Terminators. So speaking of Chaos Terminators, one biggest issue they've had all edition, firstly, is their damage isn't too high because they're forced to take a weird loadout. You get 6 Power Fists to you take the best loadout, 6 Power Fists, 2 Chain Fists, and like either 2 Lightning Claws or a Power Sword and a gun. So the damage isn't great. Their durability is obviously not amazing because unlike Space Marines, you don't get AOC in every attachment and other such rules. So then the more important thing I would say though is they have just god-awful leaders. First one they've had is a Chaos Lord, which just gives him free strat and himself has half damage, and he has mid melee, it's just a 5 attack Power Fist. Pretty awful. And the Chaos Sorcerer Lord is not really a good leader. He's more of an agnostic support. He gives his unit, I think, real charges or something similar, a very minor buff. And then at the start of the shooting phase, you pick an enemy and everyone in your army gets plus 1 AP against that. So it's not really good at leading. And then he has like a shitty power force staff or whatever, maybe a Power Fist. So they haven't had good leaders. And then, back to back, they've gotten 2 amazing leaders. Hearn was by far the best leader. He gave them high AP, gave them reactive moves. He himself hits incredibly hard, stuff like that. But a slight issue with that, which I love the Hearn Terminator squad, I'll say, is that Hearn didn't benefit a lot from Terminators. One thing I forgot to say with Terminators, they have 4 rolls to hit. That's their ability. If they dark pack, you get 4 rolls to hit. It's very cool. Hearn doesn't really benefit from Terminators. He doesn't really need the 4 rolls to hit and stuff like that. So it's just them, parasitically using Hearn's ability to benefit. But now they have a second amazing, debatably better leader in Kravik. Kravik gives a plus 1 AP in both phases, which obviously increases their damage. Which is good. Something they kind of could lack damage, and Hearn doesn't increase their damage except for his own baseline weapon. And it works in shooting too. And then he himself gets him 4 rolls to wound, and then combined with their rerolls to hit, he will do incredibly high damage by himself. So he's an amazing leader for them. Combines a lot of shooting. He gives you a good flamer. He gives you AP. He hits really hard. He's really sweet. So Terminators went from 0 good leaders to 2 in the span of like a month, which is awesome. He also, we'll get to it, it leads things like the mutilators. I don't think you can do mutilators very often because there's only 2 models. It's not really efficient. Incredibly well. So Kravik is awesome. He's going to be awesome in a lot of attachments that we'll get to, especially things like Horns and Marauders, maybe Renegade Raiders and such. You know, plus 2 AP potentially is pretty interesting. You know, maybe not him, but his unit. AP4 Power Fists, stuff like that. So overall, he's awesome. He's really good. He's probably going to be the 120 or less points. Assume he's probably going to be 100, 110 because he's, you know, Horn is a force multiplier. So he should cost more. But Kravik's really good, and I'm quite excited for him. Next, Mutilators. This unit is sweet. Mutilators have the same stat line of an Obliterator. They're fine, except they move 1 inch faster. So they move 5. T7 with a 2 up, 5 up, and 5 wounds. It's very similar to Centurion. It's just slightly more tanky. They have 2 OC, which is nice. They have Deep Strike, and then their ability is when they can reroll charges, and if they make a charge move, you do D3 mortals on a 4 up for everyone that's in engagement range. So it's an okay ability. Same thing that Crew Rampagers have in a slightly worse version that the Khorne Juggernauts have in Demons, but it's still a fine ability. You know, if you put Kravik them, it's 4 dice rolls potentially. You get them all within an inch, which is not easy because we're probably on 50s. But then their melee weapons. The melee weapons are all, in the context of Horns and Marauders, good. I think this unit is exclusively a Horns and Marauders unit. And I'll explain why. So the first attack, 6 attacks at 621. It's fine. Second attack, 4 attacks at 933. It's an amazingly good anti-elite profile. And third attack, 2 attacks at 12, 4, d6 plus 2. That might not look great, kind of, until you get into the benefits. First, Kravik potentially leading them. Kravik gives all these weapons 8 plus 1 AP, so AP5, AP4, AP3. Incredibly efficient. Kravik gives them, you know, more mortal wounds to potentially do because it's by units in this models in this unit, not just mutilator models, which is fine. Then he additionally, you know, adds all his attacks to them, so they're not going to be whiffing as hard. You know, 6 super anti-tank attacks can whiff, but when you get 6 plus 10, you're less likely to whiff. And then we'll go into the context of Huron. I guess it's the best time to talk about Huron because it doesn't apply to the Defiler. So Huron's Marauders, if you watch some of my videos just to hear me talk about it, I play this a lot. Huron ability is +1 to hit. You can essentially say you're always this one. Is army-wide +1 to hit in both phases. So now they hit on 2s always. Great. And if you have LOS of Huron, you can fall back, shoot, and charge. Amazing for especially a unit like this that is potentially slow and needs help. And they get to the things that make it a lot better. First, advanced shoot, and charge. Obviously amazing for that type of unit, a melee unit. Second, auto advance 6. That solves any issues they could have. Now you can rapid ingress them and go 11 inches. You can stage, you know, deep strike staging on the board. Maybe deep strike behind a wall. Go for a 9-inch rerollable because you can, and then just go 11 inches on your next turn and beat the crap out of someone. And thirdly, the last thing that makes it amazing, +1 attack. There you go. That is one of the best buffs I can get because this gives them 33% damage increase on their big profile. So on 6 attacks at 12, 4, d6 plus 2 at weapon skill 3, it's now 9 attacks at weapon skill 2 at 12, 4, d6 plus 2, potentially 5. So they will, with no effort, delete any non-invincible tank in the game. Like you have a Questoris, you just hand them like 8 or 7 saves and they explode. Like a Rogodorn, just kill it. And then even their mid-strength profile, you know, instead of, you get up to 15 attacks at 9, 3, 3 or 9, 4, 3. Depending if you have Kravik leading them. Remember, all these profiles can be +1 AP. And even like the Horde Killing profile, which is like, you know, only between 18 and 21 attacks, but it's 18 or 21 attacks plus another 11. They're pretty good at killing anything. So depending on this unit's price, Obliterators are 85 points a model. These should be less because, you know, Obliterators also have a melee profile. A decent one. It's like 5 attacks, 922. Not like a good one for how much points they are, but they do have one. These should probably be cheaper. I would hopefully expect these in the between 170 to 200 points ratio, and then they'd be quite, I think, good, especially in Hurons. Because we'll have to see how they update things. At the moment, you can't put Obliterators specifically in Raiders. Maybe they'll make an exception for these guys and just make them cost a lot of space. That would be really cool. This is a primo Land Raider unit, just like, you know, like Assault Centurions. You can put those in Land Raider. That'd be cool. Otherwise, you know, like I said, they in Horns and Marauders, it solves all the issues they could have. Any of them, the low attacks, the low hit rate, the not having a good leader in Kravik, you know, and then all the mobility, it solves those issues. And, you know, you have an uppy downy in this detachment. At the end of your opponent's turn, you can go up in the reserves. So, Especially if you go second, you can potentially do turn one interaction with them, even go for a 9-inch rerollable, which is not the most guaranteed, but it's like around a 45, stuff like that. So I think this unit in Herns and Marauders, mostly specifically, are very interesting. It's points depending, but they're definitely not bad. And Kravik is just amazing. All right, and then now we're going to get to the data sheet. People are probably excited for, deservedly, is Defilers. Defiler is amazing. We'll get into that why. So firstly, it is just an incredibly good top line stat line of 12-inch movement, T11, 3 up, 5 up, 18 wounds, and OC5. So it's incredibly fast. It's relatively durable. I would say quite decently durable. And it's good OC. It is, though, on 160, but that is solved by its first ability, Scuttling Walker. Ability says, as long as you make a move in your moving phase, make a normal advance fallback move. So I guess it works on reactive moves, just not charge moves. Any move that's not a charge move, you can move through anything that's not Titanic. Walls, vehicles, infantry, blah, all of it. And you also automatically pass Desperate Escapes. So your opponent can't surround you, you can just walk through them and go blah, blah. And, you know, if someone has a weird Desperate Escape ability, you don't have to worry about it. Or, you know, if you're Battle Shock, you can still run away. So that part's really good. If that thing's Battle Shock, you're playing EC, you can still 5-block, shoot, and charge with no downside. So that is really, really sweet. And then the second ability, this is the CSM one specifically, is quite insane. You always reroll wounds. If you Dark Pact, you're always Dark Pacting, obviously. But when you Dark Pact, you always reroll ones to wound. Very good. And then once per game, you can choose to go sicko mode and get full rerolls to wound. Holy crap. And then you take 3 more wounds if you fail instead of D3. Whatever. Even if you fail, it's 4 rerolls to wound. Even if you took the 3. You could have taken the 3 anyways. The average is 2. So it's like barely a bigger downside. Then, so importantly, is guns. So you got a lot of them. So you essentially have 3 sets of guns in one melee profile. You got the middle nipple, 4 sets of guns. Sorry, you get the middle guns. You got the belly gun. You got 2 hand guns. So we'll start off with the belly guns. You either get a Hades battle cannon or an ectoplasma destructor. Both of these are great guns. You're probably gonna take the ectoplasma in most armies, except potentially Death Guard. But so the Hades battle cannon is long range. D6 plus 3. Hitting on 3s, 10. I'm not going to say hitting on 3s, I'll hit on 3s. At 10, 1, 3. So fine battle cannon profile. And then you add any other synergies you could have later on. And then the ectoplasma is essentially 2 ectoplasma guns from a Forge of being glued together. It's D6 shots at 12. Actually, no, sorry, strength. 12, 3, 3. Very good gun. Obviously, the better take it all commerce gun because it's good at hitting any tank in the game. It's good at killing elites because of blast and high strength damage 3. Blah, blah, blah. Hades battle cannon has more shots and slightly more range. But the lower AP and lower strength means it needs more support. Second gun, you get 2 of these middle guns, either 2 Cruciator cannons or 2 magma cutters, and you can't mix and match. You got to take one or the other. So either 2 shots, so either you get 12 shots at 6, 1, 2, which is crazy. This is literally the Venom Crawler. You just have a Venom Crawler inside your belly. You're like absorbed a Venom Crawler. Or 2 Magma Cutters. Which are better Magma Crawlers? Magma Cutters are notoriously 6-inch range. But 2 Magma Cutters, so 4 shots at 9, 4, D6 Melta 2. So a 4-shot Melta or a 12-shot super heavy bolter, essentially. Both of these are pretty good. They have different roles, but you're going to take in the Cruciator cannon most of the times for most armies, because it lets this thing be like essentially a Rogaldorn, a hard-hitting Rogaldorn. It's got mid-strength profiles, it's got high-strength profiles, and it's got a variable profile. It does a lot. It's very multifaceted. But if you're trying to be like a mid-range thing, because you can add like a flamer, you can add another melee weapon, you can potentially go for the Meltas. They're not bad at all, because usually Magma Cutters are 6-inch range, like I said. And then you get 2 of these, but you can only take 1 heavy Bale Flamer or 1 Electro Scourge. So you get 1 Bale Flamer, which is such a super Bale Flamer from the other guys. It is a D6 plus 3 Flamer at 722. It is, on the surface, an amazing Flamer. I think since in most instances, you're going to be using this as like a mid to long range battle tank, like how people play Rogaldorns. It's not going to be needed, but like I said, there's a lot of interactions that you can take a mid-range, close-range bully, take a flamer, take some Magna Colors, take the extra melee weapon, all that jazz. There's the flamer, or you can take 1 to 2 of these last cannons, which are 2 last cannons. It's essentially just the side last cannons on Light Rider. It's 2 shots, 12, 3, D6 plus 1. Obviously, amazing baseline. It's just you can have 2 to 4 last cannons if you want. And then, in my opinion, my favorite gun, the last cannon might be better, but this is my favorite gun, is the Heavy Reaper autocannon, which is 4 shots at 913 sustained dev wounds, especially when it comes to other armies that aren't CSM, that don't have sustained baseline, or potentially want to do lethals. The stain's really good. The dev wounds are really good. The damage 3 is really good. As long as you have any interaction to help you with AP, whether it be Death Guard gaining -1 save and or cover, or it's like Tsons, which you can get a bunch of AP anyways. That's really, really good. Or you can take this, which I think is the worst gun. It's just a 2-shot missile launcher. So, you know, it's a strictly worse las cannon because it's 2 shots 10 to d6 plus 1 instead of 2 shots 12 3 d6 plus 1, which is like a mostly useless variable profile. CSM has a million type of bolter weapons, a strength 4, strength 5, AP1, AP0 in spades. It's not really a profile you need. I don't think it really helps. Or your other arm gun can be the Electro Scourge, which is interesting because this like Electro Scourge thing was terrible before. It was like 3 attacks at like 12, 1, 2 or something. It was awful. Now it's 5 attacks, sus 2 at 5 attacks, strength 12, -2, 2 damage. This is a real option, a real thought you have to put in. And like I said, I can definitely see, you know, especially maybe like World Eater players or EC players, going for like a mid bully, like potentially Electro Scourge, 1 las cannon, some belly guns, and then like the Cruciator cannons. Not a full long range shooting profile, which is really cool. And then its baseline melee weapon is the same as it was before, but with a sweep. And before it was really good. 5 attacks, strength 16, -3, d6 plus 1. What's kind of funny about this is it's barely worse than Fulgrim. Fulgrim has 1 more attack and 1 more attack and sustained, but he has 2 less strength. He hits on 2s, but this thing can hit on 2s very easily. So it's like, it's kind of sad Fulgrim. This guy's melee profile is like side grade to yours, like slightly worse, but like not that much. So overall, this thing is relatively durable. It's incredibly fast because essentially all these armies can pretty much have very easy ways of assaulting. Death Guard can do it Mortarian's Hammer. EC just does it. CSM has a million ways to advance and shoot. And World Eaters, whatever they're World Eaters, they might have assault on some of the guns. But it's very easy to advance and shoot. It moves incredibly fast. It's on a big fat base, but it's not that long. Like for instance, it's compared to a knight, it's on a slightly shorter base, but it's a fatter base. And it's more maneuverable. It's got a strictly better ability than the knights, and it's faster than the Corsitors. And like I said, knights are very weak. They can't advance and shoot, advance and charge very often. You have 1 attachment that lets them, I think, advance and charge, but not advance and shoot. That's about it. And then CK and stuff can advance and shoot with 1 enhancement and such, but it's not common. This very easily advance and shoots and quite easily advance and charges a lot of the armies. So that's really cool. So even though it's on a big base and it's kind of potentially hard to maneuver, it's not that hard to maneuver. The worst thing you'll have is like actually just deploying it in relatively safety, but maneuvering it after deploying it will not be that hard. So it's an incredibly well multi-fast unit. It's durable. It shoots incredibly hard. It hits incredibly hard. It takes buffs incredibly well, and the data sheet abilities are great. Like this one, like I said, always reroll once to wound, really good. And then once string aim, 4 rerolls to wound, awesome. And then I didn't pull them up, but here the Death Guard one is none of these changed from the Codex. So if you were ever excited about an old Defiler, like we were about the Death Guard one, here you go. So Death Guard one is after 3 shots, you pick someone, ignore cover. This is fine. It doesn't. It requires you to play tandem, which you're probably going to do unless these things are 400 points. The first one, you know, splits fires, targets something. The second Defiler blasts that one to death because then you're essentially +2 AP at that point. You get your +1 AP contagion. They don't get cover. And you just go. Yeah, imagine all these guns with equivalently AP2. Like this is AP5. These are up to AP3. Last game's potentially AP5. Though in Death Guard, I will say that last cannons are actually kind of rare in Death Guard. You're either taking the terrible Predators. Death Guard have the worst Predators. And that's really it. Or like Plague Burst Crawlers only have strength 10 last cannons, for instance. But this is like so good, I'll say. And like, yeah. So like this requires in tandem thing, but it can work really well and it can help things like the bloat drones and stuff. But yeah, the EC one is insanely good. Holy crap. It's just when he targets someone above half strength, which is the same wording as the Dreadnoughts Listis have. So above half strength, which is incredibly not below half strength, sorry. Which is easier because it works on half strength. You get +1 to it. This thing hits on 2s. It takes the coterie boss, as we'll talk about later, incredibly well. Potentially easier access to real ones to hit and or wound. Really good. And then all the things. And then remember, CSM, EC did not have guns. Their only gun they had was either a Land Raider, which is slightly better now in one specific detachment, or you get Noise Marines. And in my opinion, this thing can easily just replace the Noise Marines. Like a Noise Marine bus, so like 2 squads of Noise Marines and a Land Raider and a Rhino is like 380-ish points. Something around that, maybe 370. These will, in my opinion, most certainly not even be close to that. I assume these are going to be between 230, 250, and 300 points. Obviously, a big variability there, but I don't know. I assume it's going to be somewhere around that because I'm equivalent this. I think these are better than Dorns or Impulsors, I'll be honest. But in GW's, and trying to go through GW's brain, especially about current points things, Catains and such, is that these are similar to Dorns and Repulsors. And Repulsors were 220, they went up to like 230. Dorns started at like 250, now they're like between 270 and 290. This definitely fits in that style, in my opinion. But this is amazing. The Tsons one is better than it. It's worse than it looks, but it's fine. So it's easy to read this as you overwatch on 4s. It's not exactly how it works. First, when you shoot, it overwatches on 5's baseline. That's pretty good, especially for how much guns it has. And then if the enemy is within 9 of the Psyker, you get hit on 4s. So your opponent could just easily play around it. They just don't end a move within 9 of a Psyker, and you won't get overwatch on 4s. But potentially when that happens, that's amazing. Otherwise, overwatch on 5 is pretty fine. And then finally, this one is the big meme, but it is interesting. After your opponent, at the end of your opponent's move phase, if they were set up, which includes things like Deep Strike or Transports, if you're set up within 12 of this model, you have to be within the aura when you do it. It's not like Spectral Spite where you can be set up and walk within 9, you can still trigger it. No, you got to set up within 9, either through Deep Strike, like I said, or like a Transport. The World Leaders guy can either charge you or more probably shoot you because, yeah. So it's a big meme. It's like a noob trap. 3 of these 160s takes up all his space. It essentially says you can't Deep Strike anywhere, or you're going to die. But it is funny. It does, you know, if you play against like greater demons, it says, you know, what are you going to do? I'm going to charge you with my big Defiler and beat the crap out of you. You know, shoot you to death. Yeah. So yeah, back to the EC one. You know, Land Raiders are decently shooting. This guy just has the shooting profile of a Land Raider right here. Plus the extra guns. Like he still gets the plasma gun or the auto cannon. He still gets the excruciator cans to get a melee weapon. It's like even in the EC land, like I'd rather hit this guy hitting on 2s with all las cannons and then, you know, hit on 2s instead of 3s and get all the buffs and still, you know, be a multifaceted unit. That's like a huge thing I think people are going to slightly underestimate is that it does have a melee profile and a pretty good melee profile. It's not like a Forge Fiend, which has like 3 attacks damage too. That doesn't matter. You can't just like, unlike a Dorn, where you can bump it with some Tactical Marines. If you bump this guy with some like, you know, Tactical Marines or Custodian Guard, you're going to lose a good amount, especially if it was like an Electro Scourge, and then you definitely can never bump him. So I think this unit is amazing. I think especially with the rules we're going to get to, makes potentially CSM one of, if not, I might shoot himself in the foot, depending on how much points they are. If they are in the points, I think they are, which are between like 240 and 290. I think this makes CSM one of, not the best armies in the game for multiple reasons I want to get into. This unit is amazing, and amazing in all the armies. So this is, I'm also coming from the perspective that the Cult Marines, so Death Guard, Tsons, blah, 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 don't have unique data sheets. They just have their unique ability. You know, because currently, you know, Death Guard ones get some lethal hits. Death Guard one gets +1 toughness. The Tsons ones gets some extra AP on its weapons. And like the World Leaders one gets like slightly faster movement, but hits on force with rapid fire. Stuff like that. It would be cool if they did that. It would obviously make them better. But I don't think they're going to. If they do, you know, that'd be great. So first, we talked about Herns Marauders. It doesn't apply to this model, so we don't think to talk about it. So first one is the most obvious one is Pact-Bone Zealots. If anyone knows anything about Pact-Bone Zealots, it's been the same attachment for 3 years with very minor changes. This goes in it swimmingly. So this one is the obvious, the easy one. If you know, I'll time it real quick. Depending on you pick every model in your army gets either a keyword, a god keyword. You see right here. All of them, Tzeentch, Khorne, Nurgle, etc. And when you pick its specific buff, either sustained or lethal, you get crits on 5s if you pass your test. So imagine Defiler with sus on 5 with all its guns. Or even lethals on 5s. Really good. And then you combine it with other things. Like if you play, this attachment, if you're a Nurgle unit, which gives you the sus on 5s and shooting, you can get, where is it? Festering Miasma, which gives you stealth and a lone op 18, which is really, really good on a model like this. But if you play, this attachment has fallback shoot, has charge. You have fallback charge attachment, which helps this unit. This is a melee unit, so you can fall back over stuff and charge people, which is very nice. If you're not Slush gives you all the buffs. And then the other more important part we'll get to is this plays a castle style. So I didn't pull up the day sheets, but only pulled them up. So you got Abaddon, and you got the Helldrake or the Hell Bruter. I'll leave that up. So first Abaddon, he's very normal. He has a 6-inch aura of reroll hits. Nothing more to say about it. The rest of his shit is, it's not useless. He hits incredibly hard to melee. 8 attacks, 14, 4, 3 damage, dev wounds. That's obviously very good. And he gives you CP sometimes. But, you know, now you're sustained, crits on 5s, reroll all hits. Shooting very hard, especially in Overwatch. And then combined it with the Hellbrute. Hellbrute's ability is, when you Dark Pact within range of him, you get both abilities. You get Sus and Lethal. But how Pac-Man Zealots is worded, it's each time a model makes a melee attack, you unmodified scores a crit hit. It doesn't say score a crit hit for lethal hits or sustained. It just says you score a crit hit. So when you pick your buff and you're next to Hellbrute, you get sustained. You get both buffs no matter what. You get sustained and lethal, but you also get crits on 5s, both the attacks. So now you're sus, lethal, crits on 5s, 4 reels to hit, and then reroll 1s to wound, and once per game 4 reels to wound. So this guy comes out and fucking kills you. That type of day sheet loves more shots, obviously. So I would say in Pact 1 Zealots, you're almost certainly taking the Reaper cannons. You're taking the Cruciator cannons. You're going to take this because it's a better weapon anyways, but you can even think of taking the Battle Cannon, stuff like that. You're taking full guns, and you're just blasting people off the edge. And then finally, the most, one of the, another part you got to think about is Smashtor, the Arcafane. So an issue with Vashtor, it's been a slight issue since he's released, is he's baseline amazing. He is cheaper than a Winged Demon Prince, but he's better every way. He's +1 toughness. He has like 4 more wounds. He has +4 strength. He has +1 AP. His anti-vehicle, he has dev wounds. He has a million extra rules over them, but his day sheets are kind of awkward because they require weird things. So first, he gets loan up next to demon vehicles only. An issue, demon vehicles in CSM especially are they're kind of crap. They are bad. You have the normal Defiler, you have a Venom Crawler, and you have a Forge Fiend, and then you can technically take a Mauler Fiend and Cornlord Souls and Helldrake, but not really. Defiler is terrible. The CSM Mauler Fiend is terrible, especially because you don't need it. It's, EC only technically plays it because they don't have any true, like, big anti-fight ability. It's kind of just like they're forced to take it. It's really bad in this one because we don't need it. The Venom Crawler is the best one to run, but he's not good. He's 110 points for a 9 wound, essentially Rhino vehicle, T9, 9 wounds, 3-up save with a giant ass 100 mil base. And his gun is just, like I said, the 2 Cruciator cannons, which Defilers get, plus a million other guns. And then his ability is just bad. When he kills someone in 5 ways, you get +1 attack. And then his melee is mid. So like he doesn't shoot very hard. He hits worse because half the amount of attacks. He's not durable. He doesn't have a lot of wounds. He's on a big base, and he's not cheap. 110 points. But now, and then the Forge Fiend has been very meta'd out. Its weapons aren't really great for the current meta. Only strength 10, low amount of shots. He's not cheap, and his ability is very niche. They're not durable. They're only T10, 3-up saves. They're slow at 8-inch movement. So Vashtor is amazingly good, but he essentially forces you. His other ability also buffs the demon. That's another reason. He forces you to run these mostly bad data sheets. They're just not very good anymore. Like Indicators better than Forge Fiends, like Predators and stuff are better than Venom Crawlers for like a similar profile. But now you have a real demon engine. This guy's a demon vehicle. So now, Vashtor's effect, we can think about it. 1, he gets loaded up next to the Defiler, and Defiler's on a giant ass base, so it's very protectable. 2, he gives all demon engines +2 strength in both their profiles. Now we have to think of the Defiler now with reroll hits, sus lethal on 5s, +2 strength. So you got, it makes actually the battle cannon viable, especially in that time, strength 12. Makes this gun strength 14, so you can never be wounded anything less than a 3. Makes the creature cannon strength 8, obviously huge. The melted gun strength 11, so they can actually kill tanks. The Bale Flamer strength 9, that doesn't matter too much. It just wounds like Marine bodies on 2s and like can do damage to tanks now. The last cannon strength 14, like I said, you're not going to be cucked by, think maybe a great unclean one. But since you're sus lethal on 5s anyways, like you're getting a bunch of auto wounds. And then the Reaper auto cannon, I think is one of the biggest ones, goes to strength 11, which means like Catans, a lot of vehicles, other Defilers, for instance, you can wound them much easier. Most tanks in the game are T10, some are T11, and nichely T12. Shulun, most tanks in the game on 3s, and the rest on 4s, and a very niche amount of them still on 5s. And then you have other things like Catans, wound on like 4s and such, which is immense. And like his melee profile, the strength 18 part doesn't really matter. He wounds T9 on 2s now, like whatever. And then the strength 8 sweep is kind of frivolous. There's, you know, the very, very niche thing you see a T4 one wound model. And the same thing, sweep. Sweep's kind of frivolous. It just means you wound T7 things on 2s. But it's incredibly good. It breaks a lot of breakdowns for all his guns. Like I said, Vastra himself is amazing and he's not expensive. The slight issue you'll come with this, potentially, is that this is a very, very, I don't know how to say, I keep saying this word a lot, toxic. It's a very binary playstyle. Your models don't really advance and shoot. They just move their inches and shoot people. And they shoot people really hard. This has always been one of the hardest shooting armies in the game. But it's a lot to play around because you need to be within range of Abaddon, who's 270 points, plus he almost certainly has a chosen squad, so he's like 400 points. You want to be within range of the Hellbrew, who's not too expensive, but now you're within range of 2 different 6-inch auras on 60 mils. You know, potentially Vashtor too, but he's not the mandatory pieces. The 2 Hellbrute and Abaddon are mandatory. But maybe you want to be in range of Vashtor. And this was a lot harder before because you were taking a lot of smaller vehicles. You're taking things like Predators and Venom Crawlers and Fortunes and Vindicators. And like a lot of those reasons, those models, I will say, are not very good. Like CSM ones are not good. They're just like except for the Demon specifically, they're just equivalent to the normal Marine versions. But the Marine versions had to get +1 wound added on with Oath to make them do any damage. And you don't have Oath in this army. But now with the buffs that you can get, you can replace a lot of those models with the Defiler. You can easily replace like all your Predators, your Venom Crawlers, both the Vindicators with the Defilers. Like remember, this gun is not as good as a Vindicator cannon in most instances, but it's not substantially worse. And this is just one of like your 7 guns. You have like a mini Vindicator cannon in your belly anyways. And then you add a bunch of extra guns. You add some melee. You add a bunch of extra guns, stuff like that. So it's like easily replaces them. Obviously, in almost every instance, more durable. Sure, it has 1 less armor save, but it has interval save and has a lot more wounds. And it's way more maneuverable. It moves 12. It moves through everything. It's not low OC. You know, Vindicator's not low OC, but it's higher OC. And it doesn't move 9 and such. So it easily replaces them too. You can play a more, instead of just turbo gun line, the only way to play Pact Bound for the last 2 years has been, like I said, Abaddon, Hellbrute, like 5 to 7 vehicles. And that's it, with a very minor support, like maybe a Legionnaire, maybe some bikes. But now potentially you can run like 2 to 3 Defilers as all your tanks, solve some tank points, and then you can start investing in like Herd and stuff. Because at the moment you could still do the Herd and a mixed squad cheese. I've explained this before, but for right now, we'll talk about it real quick. It's how this works is, where is it? How it works for leading. Second. Oh, here it is. A character can only be attached to a unit if both units share a keyword. So the Masters of the Maelstrom, let me pull them up. This is, you know, 800% works, but it might piss some people off. Where's Masters of the Maelstrom? Here they are. So how it's worded is you can only lead units that you specifically share a keyword. Those are the words: share a keyword and lead. So first, Masters of the Maelstrom are Chaos Undivided. They baseline have that keyword right here. And then what they do, wherever it is, you may join a unit. So they don't lead a unit. They just join and attach to become one combined unit. So 100%, you know, 100% it works. You know, GW might change it. Is you can take a Masters of the Maelstrom and join it to like a Slaanesh or Khorne unit and make that unit Slaanesh Khorne. And then Hurin, you know, he's undivided, so he can't lead a Slaanesh unit. But since this ability says you can only be attached to a unit if they share a keyword, it doesn't say they have to share the exact same keywords. And they know that the duplicate words share a keyword, the same keyword, is that he can now, even though they're Slaanesh and he technically can't lead them, the Master Maelstrom have the undivided keyword, so he can hop on in. So you can have like a Slaanesh undivided chosen squad that has sus on 5s, 4 rolls to wound, and that's really good. So you can invest more. What I'm trying to get to is you can invest more into some kind of melee, you know, like a big Hurin chosen squad with like 2 to 3 Defilers as your actual shooting pieces, hanging out with Abaddon and Hellbrute, and then a bunch of trash and support hanging out. You don't need to do the full castle, only tanks, do nothing else. Very low viability, you know, very, you know, easy to take apart stuff style, which is really cool. One issue is that these Defilers still seem to be on 160s. We'll see if they are. Is that you can't strat reserve them because the rule is if you're above 6 inches when you strat reserve, you must essentially AFK the rest of the turn, and Defilers are 6.5 inches on their big ass base. So that is the Pact Metal Zealots thing. You know, I had a lot of day sheet stuff to pull up because there's a lot of interactions. All right, so next we're going to get to one I think E could potentially be better than Pact Metal Zealots, specifically Defilers. Attachment itself is worse, but okay. The first is Soulforged Warpack. This one has another detachment that's been suffering from the lack of good demon engines. Like I said, demon engines kind of suck a lot. The first is if you were demon engines, when you Dark Pact, you can take -1 to your test. And then if you do, you get +1 to wound or +2 attacks. +2 attacks in melee, +1 to wound in shooting only. That's very good for the Defiler, obviously. So now imagine this guy with sus or lethal, +1 to wound, reroll to wound, or full rerolls to wound. Let me close these. Okay. So that's really good. Or even the +2 attacks in melee is really good because he's a multi-facet unit, so he can use both versions of the ability. Most of the demon engines cannot. They have either a melee weapon or a gun. You know, him with 7 attacks, really good, or even 12 sweeps. So that part's really good. So what's good about this is this is an Noxus boss. He just does it by himself. He doesn't need to be within 6 of Hellbrute, 6 of Abaddon. Blech. These enhancements, there's only one that really matters. Forge's Blessing. You pick a vehicle within 12 inches, they get a 6 of Field of Pain. This is fine. It's 20 points. You would only ever take it if you're thinking about taking multiple Warsmiths, but it's okay. You know, it's a lot better on Defilers. They have a lot of wounds, but Invigorated Mected Tendrils, +4 to its movement. Whatever. Don't care. Tending Amendum. This is the other second best part. So it's a Heretic Astartes model, probably a Warpsmith. You pick whenever a vehicle within 3 invokes this contract, you have to take 1 more mortal wound if they fail. So now you're taking leadership tests on 7, and you're taking D3 +1 if you fail. It's kind of a bad debuff, but that's fine, mostly. But when you invoke your contract, you get 4 rolls to hit. That's really good. So now you get like a lot of the benefits of Abaddon without needing, all of the fluff, needing to be around a 400 point character plus a 120 point vehicle, all within 6. You're just hanging out next to Warpsmith, and Warpsmith gives you +1 to hit now. So for just being next to one character, you get +1 to hit, +1 to wound, 4 rolls to hit, reroll 1s to wound, or 4 rolls to wound. That's really good. That's really good. Yeah, that's really good. That's really nice because it does it all. Everything you need. All one little bucket. One little cheap, easy to do bucket instead of, Pact Metal Zealots might be hitting harder at its peak. This one, you get to chill around. You don't need to castle up. You can potentially have Defilers walk around, stuff like that. All right, this one, really good. 1 CP. When you invoke a contract, Demon Engine, +1 AP. So potentially, you can have all those buffs, reroll hits, +1 to hit, +1 to wound, 4 rerolls to wound, but then +1 AP on everything. That, this isn't a buff. This is just, one character staying next to you and 1 strat so far. It's not like, a lot of armies, you're like, I'm going to do 4 strats and have 5 characters. So you're like, of course, it's going to do a lot of damage. But this is, all right, so the rest of the strats. Like I said, there's some good ones, some not so good ones. Fight phase, Heretic Astartes vehicle. At the end of the phase, every time you kill someone on a fire up, he gets 1 wound back. This is fine. This essentially requires you to fight a bunch of little dummies, and you have the extra weapons, so you have 17 total melee attacks. You can gain between 4 and 5 wounds back, probably. You're not going to use this a lot. A demonic possession. 1 CP, pick a vehicle, it becomes a demon keyword. The only time this really comes up is if you're going to take a Hellbrute, so you can still have the Hellbrute combo. You're not getting crits on 5s, so you're still going to be sus lethal on your guns. Now is your demon engine. He gets all the demon engine buffs, so you can make him a really good melee profile, because if you give him 2 melee weapon, he has 7 attacks, so 9 attacks. It's really nice. And go around beating the crap out of people if you need him to. A guy with a hammer with 9 attacks, come and charge you with sus lethal. That's pretty scary. But yeah, so he gives him the demon keyword. Doesn't do anything else like that. 1 CP, pick a vehicle or Vashtor. You get to move through walls in move phase or charge phase. This technically doesn't sound that impressive because the smooth through walls or just terrain features, not models. Because the Defiler has this, but the Defiler specifically doesn't do in the charge phase. Though moving a 6.5 inch model through a wall in the charge phase is incredibly hard. It already costs you 7 inches to hop over the wall. But if your opponent, if that happens, it happens. Sadly, unlike some strats like at least old Night to Shade work this way, where you could use it after you roll the dice. you could see if you needed to use it, but it's still nice. But otherwise, you can use it on things that can't do it. So like a Hellbrute potentially, Ashtor, stuff like that. This strat's really good and was really, really good when Defilers didn't exist because it's the only thing you could do. But yeah, you can also, and it's Hereditary vehicle. It's not just Demon Engine, so you can use it on things like a Land Raider if you wanted to. Predatory Assault, this one is absolutely garbage. If your opponent, ends a move within 9 of you, you can make a reactive move 6 inches as close as possible to the movement. I don't really understand the point. If you had a Blood Surge, it'd be cool, but these things don't. So it doesn't make any sense. You're just moving close to them for no reason. Like it nichely potentially sets you up for a weird heroic. Well, whatever. It's kind of bad shit. And then finally, a Feeding Frenzy. 1 CP, you pick a static varied Demon Engine vehicle or Vashtor. Until the end of the phase, when someone falls back, they take a desperate escape. And if they're battle shocked, -1. This is fine. Whatever. It's mostly better if you have a couple of units touched with you, especially if they're battle shocked, but whatever. You're not going to use as much. The point I think about this detachment is it is a more spread around Pact on Zealots. You can get a lot of the benefits, some of the better benefits of Pact on Zealots, and you don't need to be as condensed. Near Abaddon, near Vashtor. You're playing Vashtor here. Near your Hellbrute specifically, you gotta just chill. You just walk around with your eventually your reroll hits, but your +1 to wound, your 4 rerolls to wound, you're just hewing people. Really good. Like I said, I think Pact on Zealots might be better because it does the thing you're trying to do, which is just kill God, which Pact on Zealots does kill God. At Lightning Pig kills many gods. But this is a real thing to think about. Like, this attachment is good. It just did not have units to buff before. It wasn't good. Like the units themselves. Now it has a really good choice. Finally, people's favorite. Not mine. But people love this attachment. Renegade Raiders. So first off, we'll talk about Heritage Audis have Assault. Obviously, amazing Defiler. We just talked about potentially 18-inch movement and shooting people to death. And, if they shoot if you attack someone on an objective, either phase, +1 AP. Potentially, you can think of these guns as +1 AP. You're not, because it's your opponent's choice if you ever have the +1 AP, but the option is there. You might eventually get +1 AP, which is very nice, especially on, in my opinion, like the better guns, like the Crusader cannons, and the Reaper autocannons, which I think, like I said, I think are generally the better guns. They really like those buffs. And then any enhancements that matter. None of the enhancements matter for this specifically, so we're gonna skip over them. 1 CP, Armor Contempt for non-damned units. This is obviously good, especially on something, it doesn't have a tube save, so it's not as good with it, but it's still a giant durable vehicle that helps it live. Scour and Seize, that don't care. This doesn't matter. It gives you precision. It's useless in the fight phase. Another strat, see, like this attachment, it's really only for attachability. You're playing this and for other niche things, but there is some things to talk about. Like I said, there's Armor Contempt. This one is this one, Uproots Raiders. This is one of the best strats, one of the better strats in the game. The best strats here. At the end of the fight phase, if you're not within engagement range, you can make a 6-inch normal move, or 12 you're mounted, or you can make a full fallback move. So 12 for Defiler. Defiler can not advance, but he can move 12, shoot a bunch of people, charge them, do a bunch of damage charge phase, and then fall back 12 inches. And since it is a normal move or a fallback move, it's not restricted to the movement phase specifically, you can do it while running over everyone and just go blah, 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 blah. That's really good. That's really good on this guy. Or, it's really good when you get charged, you're tagged. You can never be tagged because of the strat. If you want to try to tag, you just hit them, and then you fall back 12 inches anyways. On their turn, you're still going to move. This strat doesn't apply to them. Transport or Heretic Astartes can auto advance 6. Imagine being this strat in the world of Herons and Marauders. Embarrassing. But yeah, this one's a good strat when it comes up. 1 CP Ruinous Rage. Pick a starting unit that is embarked. If they're fighting something objective, 4 will stand wound. Doesn't apply to Defiler. It's really only for Chosen and Noise Marines that your opponent lets you because they have to be on objective. Whatever. And 1 CP Reaver's Haste. Sadly, this doesn't work on Defilers. It's infantry and mounted only. They get advance and charge, and then +1 to charge if your opponent's on objective. So I think this is the less important attachment. It's obviously the most baseline attachment. Your Defiler is always Assault, and then restricted have +1 AP, and then you have a couple strats to use on them. But this is the least exciting to me. Yeah, that's all the CSM stuff. This is really exciting. I think Pact on Zealots, knock on wood, all that jazz, might be one of the best shooting armies in the game now. One of the best, first defending teams army. I think people might be playing 15 Defilers in teams, by the way. We'll have to see. Points depending, but we'll see. All right, Emperor's Children. This one is huge. There's only one attachment that matters, so we have to talk about too much here. So Emperor's Children, like I said, remember it's the same guns, but it has +1 to hit against most targets. As long as you're above half wounds, good to go. Or above, under half. So if you're half or higher, you get force wound. So if you don't know what the coterie attachment ability does, it's at the start of the battle run, you bet. And you bet how much units you're going to kill. And if you kill those units or more, you get that many points. What you bet. So say you, on turn 1, you bet 3, saying I'm going to kill 3 units this turn. And you do, you kill 3 or more, you get 3 points. And then you get bonuses, depending on what you get. If you fail, your warlord takes mortal wounds, but whatever. Doesn't matter. The failing is the bad part because you waste the whole battle run doing nothing. It's actually the more important part. First, the easiest 1 point, you get 4 rolls to hit. Real ones to hit. Remember the EC one essentially hits on 2s whenever he wants. So that's really good. So now, after the first turn, he's 2s rolling 1s. Really good. Second one, 3 points. These ones are easy ones, and you pretty much always get them against any army, except potentially the 5 biggest list, but you'll get this without a lot of effort. Number 3, whenever they make an attack, reroll 1s to wound. So there. So the 2 easiest buffs are really, really good. So now you reroll 1s to hit, reroll 1s to wound. It's really good. Hitting on 2s. You get a lot of guns. Second one, at 5 points, melee weapons get lethal and sustained. Remember, it's melee only. But this guy does like having both those buffs, especially if you potentially have both weapons. And then lastly, on a 7, you get crits on 5s. This one doesn't happen too much. If you ever get this, unless you're essentially fully tabled, you pretty much win the game because your models do godly insane damage, especially in melee. But yeah, crits on 5s, which, some of these matter. Like some of these, what's important is you don't get the keywords in shooting. It's only melee, but some models already have keywords like, the Reaper autocannon and potentially the Electro Scourge. So there we go. There's that. The enhancements, there's nothing to talk about. They all just affect their units, so whatever. None of them apply to Defilers, so I don't want to get into them. First one, 1 CP. After someone hurts you, you get a 6 of Feel No Pain or 4 against mortals. It's obviously insanely good. It makes you essentially immune to dumb mortal wound stuff. Or, a 6 of Feel No Pain on 18 wound model makes you going to save a good amount of wounds. Very good. 1 CP, you ignore hit and wound modifiers. Yep. Hit and wound modifiers. So that can be, helpful. It's not amazing. I'll say that. It can be very helpful. But hit and wound modifiers means, it's always going to be hitting on essentially 2s and wounding on 2s and 3s, depending on 5s, depending on what you're shooting, but good when it comes up. It's not a buff you're using a lot, but it's good when it comes up. 1 CP, this strat is ambiguously amazing. The issue is, unlike something like Sisters, which uses this strat to a lot, the EC doesn't have a lot of models to make use of it. But, so, we'll talk about it. 1 CP, start of the fight phase, pick an infantry unit, and your enemy has to fire their infantry unit if they're engaged in range of it. So that could be really good to protect a Defiler. You keep some, infractors or tormentors nearby. You heroic into your opponent is trying to dive your Defiler. You say boom, you say get down, Mr. President. Your opponent has to fight the tormentors as much as possible. And the Defiler is like, fuck you, and fucking kills them afterwards. And then fallback shoots and charges and kills them again. This is hard to use. Like, it's hard to use in this army because everything's so expensive. You don't have throwing units. Like if you had things like cultists or whatever, it'd be pretty silly. But you're using expensive infantry units to do it. All right, 1 CP, martial perfection. In the fight phase, you get photos to hit. This is just a really good strat. It's obviously not as good as Defilers. If you one benefit why this unit is the most important, if it is to any army, to EC, is EC cannot kill big things. That's been their biggest weakness since inception. They have nothing really stronger than a power fist in their whole army. That's why, like I said, they bring Mauler Fiends, which Mauler Fiends unironically kind of suck. This helps a lot because then now this guy, he's hitting on 2s, rerolling everything, potentially rerolling 1s, stuff like that, and he's beating the crap out of people. Like, so he can get like this is what I think, if anyone's most likely can do it, they're going to take quad lascans at this army. This army is like pretty good at killing mid strength things and low toughness things specifically, but high toughness things, it's really hard. So like this one, you're going to be taking like the Ectoplasma, the Hades las cannons. Obviously the Claw comes with it, and then probably still the Cruciator cannons, but not really. Let me close these. All right, and then this one's good. 1 CP after you kill something, you get a pledge counter. It doesn't let you like bet 4 and then kill 3 only and help yourself. What it does is if you bet 3 and you kill 4 units, you can say you killed 4. That's all it does. It's very good, but it's like it's not as OP potentially as the first read. And the last one, Armor Contempt. This is obviously really good in Defiler. So this attachment has a lot for you. A lot of times, like as a baseline, the attachability is amazing. Secondly, this is a niche EC does not have, which is high strength, high damage attacks. It doesn't have any durable things except noise demon princes, which are like they're durable, but they're like fake durable. They're durable against very specific things and like other things. Like if you shoot the demon prince with a bunch of melta guns, their 230 point asses are just dying. So like they don't have any like real durable units. They don't have good shooting. Like the best shooting they have is noise marines. For instance, like a full noise marine squad and a rhino is like 290 plus like 80 points. So like 370 points. I don't think this is going to be even close to that. Like I said, I'm assuming it's going to be in like the higher 200s. So like saving about 100 points just taking this. I think this can easily replace things like noise marines. Or potentially, if you still want to keep demon princes, you know, if you just cut the demon princes potentially, this is, you know, will probably be more, but probably not substantially more. Like no more than 40 more points. So it's like easy fits in there, which is really cool. I think these are going to be God tier and EC, and you should be seeing them quite soon. All right, Death Guard. Death Guard is another Spicer. So like I said, I'm coming from the perspective that these don't have unique rules, like besides the baseline rule. Like right now, like I said, Death Guard ones have lethal hits, has +1 toughness, TC ones have extra AP, stuff like that. I don't think they're going to, but if they do, think of this even better than what I say. The first, I think the most obvious one is Mortarian's Hammer. This is, if you paid attention, this is what I wanted to come up with last year. This is the very annoying tank detachment. So it is, you at the start of the battle round, you pick 2 people and they're automatically contagion. They're very good for things like Playboy Scholars and Dash Route Terminators, but also just very good for just doing damage. You don't have to be within 3 to 9 inches. You just pick 2 people on the board and say, fuck you. You're contagioned. All right. And then we'll get to the enhancements. There's only one that matters. This one is you ignore cover. Your unit ignores cover. This one is +12 in training to his gun. Terrible. Once you get Overwatch for free, whatever. First one, Tendrillus emissions. So, Lord of Units only. He gets a loan up within 3 of a vehicle. Very good. And then when he when they shoot an enemy that's visible to the Lord of Units specifically, that one's a little weird, but the Lord of Units has to be able to see you. You can't just hide him behind a wall. They get real once to wound. This also combines with the Lord of Units' ability where he points at a unit and says, every shooting attack gets 4 real ones to hit. And if you're a blast weapon, 4 reals to hit. So now the Defiler is at the minimum, real ones to hit, real ones to wound. And if it's something like the ectoplasm containers, or even maybe the missile launcher if you take them, or they, not the heavy fail flamer because it's not blast, they get 4 reals to hit, which is really good because these are the best weapons. You know, you have the cruciator cannons, 12 shots at 612, real ones to hit and real ones to wound. The ectoplasma, which is, you know, D6 shots at 1233, real 4 reals to hit, real ones to wound, stuff like that. This also comes up, you know, potentially, you know, these attacks might have lethal hits. They might have variable strength profiles. We just got to wait. Like I said, I don't think personally, I think GW is going to take the easy way out. But if they do, increase the stonks by X amount. This is, I'm going to get to it, but I think this is the only army where you can potentially think of taking the Hades battle cannon. Because like bury the lead, there's an ignore cover strat here. But you know, the +1, the strength 10 is you can think of it as strength 11 in a lot of ways. It's a little bit better because, you know, with your -1 toughness, that means you wound T11 things on 4s because they become T10. You wound T10 things on 3s because they become T9. And then you wound T6 things on 2s because they become T5. It's slightly better than strength 11, but it means it can't be cucked totally. And then, you know, if anything, if something gets lethal, it'd be this gun and not this gun, because this one currently has lethal in the current book. This one doesn't exist, but it's a plasma gun, so it's kind of weird. And then, like I said, it's blast. This is also blast, but it's blast. So it has blast energy and lets you stay farther back. I still think this will probably be better, but this is the one army. If any is better, it's better. It is this one. And like I said, the contagion against most armies you're picking is -1 save. So this, you can think of this as plus AP2 a lot of ways. So back to the strats for Mortarian's Hammer. So you already have an amazing attach ability. You point click 2 people and say, I'm going to murder you. And then it lets me do a lot of supporty stuff. First one, this one's going to get 2 CP under your move phase. You pick a terrain within 24 invisible to someone. and then everyone within 3 is afflicted. So I don't know, it lets you spread across your damage. A lot of times, like I'll use this and say like 5 extra units will be afflicted, especially on a lot of terrain pieces that are like 12 inches wide. A 3-inch aura of a 12-inch terrain piece is ginormous. It's like everyone around that is afflicted. 1 CP. This one doesn't apply too much. Pick a vehicle and your movement charge phase to move through walls. Like I said, the charge phase can help the Defiler initially, but it can help. But otherwise, the strat isn't as important as it used to be. You used it to like move plague burst colors and drones through walls, but you don't need as much because your best model just does it automatically. Like I said, it still works for drones and stuff. And you know, if you're taking melee drones, I like it a lot. Though I don't think you'll ever take melee drones and stuff. This kind of eats all the shitty stuff. This attachment lets you, you know, potentially do more melee stuff if you want. You know, take a bunch of 2 to 3 Defilers, you know, the heavy bloat drones, and then that's really all you need. Or you can do like the Omega skew list of still taking Plague Burst Callers, but then Defilers. Defilers help an issue that this army had, which was primary. This army was actually really bad at primary, especially this attachment. The only thing, what you ran in the old ways was just all the drones. So like Mephitic Biolars, photo bloat drones with launchers, photo drones with melee, stuff like that. And all they were T9 vehicles with 10 wounds with 3 OC. And sometimes I could hold an objective, that's fine, but most times it couldn't, and then that's the only thing you do for primary. Now these Defilers are way more durable. They're a multifaceted unit, they have higher OC, so they can potentially move up and do objective control better. But instead, like I said, or you can cut some of the vehicles and add this guy, as we'll get to, for one specific reason, even this attachment. I think the attachment we're going to get to next might still be better for specific reasons. Well, this attachment has a lot of stuff in it that it's really, really good. I like this one, Draw and Despair. 1 CB shooting phase, you pick a Death Guard unit, and if you can shoot a visible enemy in the opponent's DZ, you get 4 rolls to hit. So now all your guns can be 4 rolls to hit, reroll 1s to wound, maybe keywords, we'll see, +1 AP, ignores cover. Oh, there's no ignores cover, sorry. There is, if you bring a Defiler. Sorry. What this is assault. I got these confused. But speaking of that, 1 CP, gain assault. So now you have a Defiler who can, you know, like Renegade Raiders, can go like 18 inches through walls, blast you to death with maybe 4 rolls to hit, maybe reroll 1s to wound. That's really good. 1 CP, pick an objective marker visited to you, and everyone has to take a battle shock test that's afflicted. Whatever. The strat's whatever. And then last one, also very good. Start a charge phase, you pick a vehicle, and then everyone charges you -2 charge. So especially on, you have a Defiler, your opponent's trying to gang up on you, they're trying to get multiple units in you, because you know most units are going to one-shot at melee. -2 charge multiple units is very good. So overall, this one does a couple of specific things, which is like easily does the AP, easily does assaulting, has damage buffs through things like the Lord of Virulence aura. So that's very good. But then we'll get to the generic one that you've all seen a million times, Virulent Victorum, the remade old index. This one gives you sticky ejectors in the command phase. Nothing special there. A bunch of enhancements that don't matter because we're not going to apply to them. And then a bunch of strats that are really good. 1 CP, vehicle or monster, they auto explode. And then enemies like hit by it are afflicted, but whatever. 1 CP auto explode on a model that explodes for a D6. It's really good. And then a Primarch that explodes for D6, as we'll get to after this. 2 CP, -1 damage and shooting 5 phase. Obviously amazing on this guy. This is one of the biggest reasons to play this attachment. Very good. 2 thumbs up. All right, 2 CP. Your warlord's on the battlefield, +3 inches to contagion. This is fine when you need it, and sometimes you do need it. And when you do need it, you're gonna spend the 2 CP. But it is, you know, it is 2 CP to give you +3 inches to contagion. Whatever. Least Spore Eruption. This is another reason to run this attachment. This strat is really good, especially on this and Mortarion. 1 CP, you pick an enemy within 3 of you in your command phase, and you roll a D6 for each wound you've lost. And for each 5, you do a mortal wound, and you heal that much up to 6. So, like, say a Defiler is almost fully dead. He's at like 1 wound. So that means you get to roll 17 dice, and for each 5 up, you do a mortal wound and heal that much. So on 17 dice, you're gonna get on average 5 to 6. Now that's the best case scenario, but 5 to 6 mortal wounds and you're healing 5 to 6 is really good. Like I said, you have another model that really likes that strat too that you'll also be playing. 1 CP overwhelming generosity. This one's quite good with the Defiler. 1 CP, you pick a character, and then your character points at an enemy, and anyone that shoots that enemy gets to reroll its random dice count. So it's really, that helps a lot with things like the blast weapons, potentially the Bale Flamers, potentially the frag launcher if you're taking it. So it can help a lot, especially if you have, you know, maybe you're sending Death Shroud in 2, because then they can reroll the shot counts in their flamers. or just, you know, you're trying to kill a Catan. You're like 1 CP, pick the Nightbringer, and then all my blow drones get 4 reels to their shot count. My Defiler gets 4 reels to shot count, and then they're -1 toughness anyway, so they're only T10, so they can actually kill you. It's very good when it comes up. And 1 CP Cleaving Bright is really good, but doesn't apply to Defiler. It gives an infantry unit in the shooting phase 4 reels to wound. So then finally, before we say why stats it's really good, I want to talk about Mortarion. So the thing that we want to talk about Mortarion is he has his damage and his rules. We're not here for that. Like, he has a good melee weapon. He has an incredibly good sweep. He has 2 decently good guns. He makes enemies take more wounds on 2 up next to him. That's fine. What he's here is for his Mortarion ability, where once per turn, he gets to use one of them. First one is after an enemy, you know, reactive moves within 9, you pick an enemy you pick a death guard within 6 of him, of this guy, that one, Mortarion, and you get to make a roll move. So, you know, this guy who's a big ass base likes doing that. Second one, the real reason we're here, is after someone shoots a death guard unit within 6 of Mortarion on a 2-up. This is the other one. This is Boon of Death. It's not the one we're here for, but it's also good. After an enemy fights a death guard unit and they select attack, you can't just use it after the fact. You have to, when someone targets you, use the ability. And on a 2-up, they get a Find Death, which is very good. It works on himself too for 2-up Find Death. It works on potentially the Blight Lord you're taking, or even the Defiler. Very good. The last one, the one we're actually taking it for, after an enemy selects an enemy in the shooting phase, after your opponent selects one of your models in the shooting phase, you use this ability. And then after they finish attacking you, you just get to shoot them. A full activation back, which is terrifying. This is like Overwatch on super steroids. Essentially means, you know, especially combined with things like, now we can talk about it, -1 damage and the heal and the auto explode, is it makes the Defilers in a lot of ways almost untouchable, because you have like potentially Mortarion hanging out in a safe spot and you have like 2 Defilers hanging out near him. If your opponent targets any of them, you're just going to shoot back with a full activation, as we talked about, are really good. These guns are really good. Most things cannot just take this to the face for no reason. So it, like, your opponent can only shoot you with the biggest of the big thing. They can never shoot you with anything medium, anything small. Like, and then they're just dead. That ability is insane. Except Mortarion loves this detachment. He loves the -1 damage. He loves the he even likes to reroll random shots because he has one of those. But he really likes the heal and he likes the auto explode because, you know, he has D6 explosion. They have D6 explosion. They all love all these rules. And the sticky, like I said, is not nearly as good as Mortarion Hammer rules. It helps if you're running, you know, this type of super lead army of Primarch plus Defilers and such. So that all in all helps a lot. So overall, I think Defiler is one of the best day sheets they've released in a long time. I think it's godly. I think it's super cool. And I'm very excited. So those are the armies I play. You know, I personally play Death Guard. I personally play Tsons. Not Tsons. I personally play CSM. And I've played EC a lot. I don't play Tsons myself, but there's one really good thing for Tsons we'll talk about. And we'll finish it up. So this is the Warpforged Cabal. Warpforged Cabal is a pretty good attachment. Issue is kind of like Soulforged Warpack. They haven't had a lot of goodness, and it really required like good data sheets. Like their predators and stuff are fine. They're not like amazing, but they're fine. They haven't a lot of good data sheets to like support the style detachment. But now you do, and you have some good, really good rules here. So first, whenever a Tsons vehicle shoots, they get to reroll hit, wound, or damage. That's, you know, one of each is quite good, especially if you're taking things like last cannons. But if you are within range of a Psyker, within 6 of Psyker, you can do one of each. Very nice, especially for something like I said, the last cannons. And then you have this secondary ability, which is unironically a downside. This shit's actually awful. It should be an option. But each time a Tsons vehicle explodes, if they're within 6 of a Psyker, they explode on a 5. So that can be really good, really, really bad for Defilers, potentially. So we're going to have to pretend that doesn't happen. We're just going to ignore that. Then these enhancements, they're all kind of bad. First one is after you channel the warp, you can make the mortal wound. You can take this. You can take a vehicle, take a mortal wound, and then you get to reroll the dice, like whatever. 1 CP, 1,000 infantry. They gain lone op. The issue is like, this is cool. It's like, oh, it's gonna be your little tech marine guy. None of the buffs like the Psychers have like benefit the vehicles at all. So it's like they had one technically that did the Sorcerer Terminator armor, but after they changed him, it doesn't. Yeah, It used to be after you shot or something like that. You got to pick an enemy and you get +1 to hit it. So it didn't really affect the unit. But now it's his unit gets +1 to hit a specific target, but it doesn't affect the unit. Like anything else in your army, just his unit. So like the only guy you could potentially think of, it doesn't work anymore. Where'd my detachment go? It disappeared. Here it is. So enhancement doesn't really matter. And this here's one: biomedical mutation. Here's the tech enhancement. You pick an enemy, you pick a vehicle within 6 in your command phase, you heal D3, except you're not low knob, so it like doesn't really help too much. And then 1 CP, you can if you're within 6 of a vehicle, you get +6 to your range. Now these enhancements are very interesting and that good, so we're not gonna talk about them. All right, first, hex marked armor. 1 CP, it is armor contempt for vehicles. Good. Defiler likes that. I remember the Defiler, we didn't really talk about it, it's too much. The Tsons one, where is it? Let me switch. Here it is. This one is he overwatches on 5s, and if your enemy is within 9 of one of your psychers, he overwatches on 4s. So you can potentially get some more activations out of this guy. Mutate landscape. This one is a good one. You pick in your command phase, you pick a psyker, you get to sticky the objective, and if your opponent runs on it, they take damage on a 4-up. Fine. Cyber spirit mechanisms. 1 CP. In your move phase after a vehicle falls back. If they're within 6 of a psyker, you get to fallback shooting charge, which is good. Fallback shooting charge is incredibly rare in Tsons and is one of their weakest aspects. So this helps a lot. And like I said, Defiler loves that because he can just run over people and then shoot and charge afterwards. So, boom. Very nice. All right. Next. Malevolent Animus. 1 CP. This strat is weird. So if I'm wrong how I'm reading this, you correct me in the comments. But so you pick a vehicle within 6 of a psyker unit. And so how I'm reading this, while an enemy is malevolent, you pick someone malevolent, whatever. So your next command phase, holy shit. So it lasts a whole battle round. Strat's insane. I guess you have to use it preemptively, but still. While enemy is relevant, you can ignore any modifiers to its characteristics of its models, the weapon skill, ballistic skill of those weapons, and any roll except saving throws. So I'm reading it as it ignores any modifiers, so you ignore like movement, toughness, whatever modifiers. You ignore all weapon modifiers, so hit modifiers, and you ignore any hit, wound, or damage modifiers that are rolls or test. This one's so weird to read. Any roll or test for it. So it's any roll. So any roll is hit, wound, or damage. Any test is like leadership or something. It's weird. It ignores leadership modifiers. This is a weird strat. This strat's super weird. So I don't think, if I'm correct, it doesn't ignore flat damage modifiers. So if you have a, where is the Defiler? You're out of it. You're done with these guys. It doesn't ignore modifiers for these weapons because they're flat. You're not making a test for them. You're not making a roll for them. What it does, because if it specifically said damage, it would 100% work. Just say just rolls, but I think it should work on modifiers to like the magma weapons and most importantly the last cannons and then the claws. So that's very good. So it ignores a million different modifiers, expect specifically AP because it says it right there. Also, I might even be wrong on that one. I think I'm right on this one, but I don't know. This strat is super weird, but this strat makes you ignore a million things. Very good. This guy likes it. He likes ignoring all the modifiers, stuff like that. Okay, this strat really good. Ensorcelled Infusion. Once again, pick a vehicle within range of a psyker. Your weapons become psychic, which does not do anything except be a downside. But more importantly, you get +1 to wound and the shooting phase. So now you have this guy with all his guns, +1 to wound. Very good. And lastly, this strat, this sucks. Use a strat after your opponent charges a vehicle. You roll 6 dice on a 5-up. They take a mortal wound, they take a battle shock. It's like a bad grenade when you charge and you potentially can battle shock someone. But what's slightly more important about this army is you can make these guys reroll once to hit or reroll all hits, or double move. So you can potentially go 18 inches in advance and then move another 6. So you can go to like 24 inches and start shooting people. And then finally, the best part is you can give an enemy -1 save, -2 saves. So you can have all these guns potentially be reroll hits, +1 to wound, +1 AP, +2 AP. That's pretty good. Maybe ignore any amount of modifiers, whatever those might be. Strat's weird. I'm not 100% sure exactly what it ignores, but it is very weird. But that's it. Attachment's like, quite good. It has a lot of good buffs, and like I said, you have fallback, a fallback shoot charge too, so you can do a lot of good things with attachment. So that is all the armies that get defilers, and like I said, all the things that speak out to me of what make this day sheet really good. Like I said, if they are at the points I think they probably are, it's one of the best day sheets in the game. I think it definitely makes CSM top tier, like in the Tau region. Like I think it potentially like replaces Tau and puts it in the region of Necrons and Ultramarines and like technically Guard are there, but Guard are only good for the super upper echelon people playing Recon Guard. Like Guard never really has that good of a win rate or stuff. So like even though Guard might be S tier, it's like in my opinion not really. That's all. I hope you enjoyed my breakdown. I hope I gave you guys some perspective on this new model and how it's going. I'm going to be playing some games, especially on stream. Hopefully the points come out soon, but I'm going to be using an estimated points, I think, and just get some games out, see how it plays for reals without just, we're not in hypothetical land. I'd like to see how it actually plays. But yeah, that's it. Thank you for watching. Please like, share, comment, subscribe, all that jazz. It helps a lot. It means a lot. I just hit above 5,000 subs the other day, which thank you a lot. I want to try and do something for that. I'm going to put a poll. Maybe I'll wait till 10,000, but 5,000 is really cool. It's a big number. I've only been doing 5,000 subs for 5 months. It's fun. With that, if you need any coaching, the Discord link is in every single video. So send me a PM. Just my name on Discord, Steve Trimble. It's very easy to find me on the Discord. Other than that, that's all I have to say today. Thank you for watching. Hope you all have a great day, and I'll see you guys later. I'm sorry, I forgot the World Eaters one. This has to do with, this is the most likely, if any, is to be different, the most different. So it's really hard to talk about unless we fully have confirmation about what it does, because currently, like I said, it moves faster. It has the weird rapid fire and hitting on forest aspect. So it's hard to hypotheticalize what it's going to do. But so I don't know if I said this earlier in the video, but if your opponent is set up within 12 specifically of this model, you either get to shoot at them or you declare a charge. That includes things like Deep Strike and things like transports. It's very niche. Your opponent can just play around it. It's incredibly easy. You just don't set up within 12. It's not like the special spite ability, but when it works, it works. So why the World Eaters one I completely forgot about, because it's not too interesting. There's not a lot going on for this army that interacts with it except its baseline rules. There isn't a lot in the army ability that matters too much. Real charges, fine. Pile consolidate 6, fine. Find death, fine. Sustained and lethal and melee, fine. Devastating when you get into infantry, fine. None of these are like that interesting, and that's your army ability. Same thing with that. The only really attachment that matters and really kind of interacts with this army is this one, Berserker Warband, where you get +1 attack and +2 strength on the charge. A lot of that's already frivolous because, he's already strength 16, so he goes to strength 18. This weapon goes to strength 14. He gets 6 attacks or 11 attacks. It's not that big of a profile. I was reading through Gorchak. There's like nothing in this attachment that applies to it. The only thing you can get is a reactive shoot. Some shoots you can make a 6-inch normal move. It's fine. Nothing else matters. So none of the attachment ability is okay. To be fair, we played 4 teams before, and they got no interaction with attachment, so you can easily play it there, especially since it's a multifaceted unit, depending on the points and depending if they change the day sheet or not. And the strats, the ones that are really important, well, the only one I want to talk about is you can -1 damage in the melee phase, fight phase. So it's obviously a strictly worse source than Death Guard strat, but the strat is obviously amazing. These type models can easily die in melee to like mass power fist, so making you not be able to die in melee is really good. That's really all I have to say about the World Eaters. It's because there's not a lot of applications, and like I said, it's the most likely to be different if any of them are different. If none are different, it's on 3s. You're probably just gonna run it just to run it. World Eaters have a problem of killing big things, except with Exalted 8-bound, and Exalted 8-bound can whiff, especially depending on the meta, like -1 damage. They do not like -1 damage. This guy does not care about it too much, so that would be very good. Yeah, so we just have to wait and see. And if once we see potentially the sheets specifically, and if any of them are, if we do get the differences, like the Tsons guns are +1 AP, Death Guard stuff has lethal and +1 toughness. DC one, I don't even have maybe 14 movement, and the World Eaters one potentially more movement and the weird shooting. I'm gonna make a second video. I'm excited for that. We'll have to wait and see. there's not much else to talk about this. Already did my outro. So thank you for watching again. Hope you all have a good day.